Coming up, President Biden addresses the nation, detailing why he ended his re-election bid.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 11.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. President Biden made his first extensive remarks tonight about his decision to step away from his re-election efforts and endorse Vice President Kamala Harris for the Democratic presidential nomination. CBS's Skylar Henry begins our coverage from Washington.
I believe my record as president, my leadership in the world, my vision for America's future, all merited a second term. But nothing can come in the way of saving our democracy.
In a primetime Oval Office address, President Biden spoke to the nation about his decision to drop out of the 2024 presidential race.
So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. That's the best way to unite our nation.
When he announced over the weekend that he's no longer seeking re-election, Biden threw his full support behind Vice President Kamala Harris for the nomination.
The defense of democracy, which is at stake, I think is more important than any title. I draw strength and I find joy in working for the American people.
President Biden, who stepped down under intense pressure following his poor debate performance last month, says he plans on staying in office until the next president is inaugurated in January.
They'll continue to lower costs for hardworking families, grow our economy. I'll keep defending our personal freedoms and our civil rights, from the right to vote to the right to choose.
In Charlotte, North Carolina, former President Donald Trump held his first rally since President Biden exited the race.
But really what happened was the leaders of the Democrat Party, in a very undemocratic move, the bosses, they said either you get out or we're going to throw you out using the 25th Amendment. That's what happened, you know that.
On Thursday, Vice President Harris is set to deliver a keynote address in Houston to the annual meeting of the American Federation of Teachers. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
President Biden called this election year, quote, one of those rare moments in history when the decisions we make now determine the fate of our nation and the world for decades to come. Sources say Vice President Kamala Harris is beginning to vet about a dozen possible candidates to be her running mate. One of those is Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear. Much of the political conversation has centered on Beshear and three others: Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, and North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper. The broader list reportedly includes at least one person not currently in government. Secretary of State Michael Adams says if Beshear is picked and wins the job, Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman will assume the duties of governor. But there could be an interesting fight over who takes over the duties of lieutenant governor. He says Coleman may not be allowed to appoint a new lieutenant governor, and the office duties could go to Republican Senate President and Clay County native Robert Stivers. Democrats might sue to keep the office Democratic. Republicans might sue to hold a special election. The Secretary of State used to be next in line for lieutenant governor, but not anymore.
32 years ago, that changed. It wasn't personal to me. I don't know exactly when it went down, but the Constitution was changed. And so now it's the governor, lieutenant governor, Senate president, attorney general, and auditor that's the line of succession in Kentucky.
Democrats could make Kamala Harris its nominee for president as soon as August 1st in a virtual vote and could formalize the nomination of her running mate soon after that. As we awaited President Biden's address from the Oval Office, Jeremy Toms went out to talk with voters about the changes taking shape in the presidential race and whether that may motivate more voters this November.
President Biden addressed the nation Wednesday night in his first appearance since he announced he will not seek re-election.
I think it does create an opportunity for younger voices to become more aware of what's going on.
The president said the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. It's a move that Lexington Fayette NAACP President Whit Whitaker believes could encourage voter interest and turnout.
Older people have often said young people don't care about voting, but it's more voter fatigue. You know, you beat your head against the wall to try to find change.
Trump and Biden, you know, that's all America. They were kind of labeled as our only two options when there's so many more people.
Biden described the now presumptive nominee, Kamala Harris, as experienced, tough, and capable in his address. Still, some voters aren't swayed at this point.
There's no candidate that's going to be great that's going to answer everything that we want. You can't make everybody in the world happy. You can't make everybody in Kentucky happy.
But others appreciate that a different candidate, a younger woman of color, will top the ticket.
Whether it's voting for her or voting against her, I think it is awakening a new group of people to go out and vote in general.
Whitaker says that whether the votes go towards Democrats, Republicans, or independents, the biggest success this November would be an engaged Lexington.
Let your voice be heard, because, you know, vote is important. I know a lot of people are like, oh, my vote don't count. Every vote counts, I promise you.
In Lexington, Jeremy Toms, WKYT.
And there's new information tonight about the shooting of former President Trump. FBI Director Christopher Wray revealed on Capitol Hill today the gunman did a Google search a week before opening fire on Trump, looking up the shooting distance in the killing of President John F. Kennedy. Wray also told lawmakers the gunman scoped out Trump's rally site with a drone, possibly even live streaming hours before the former president took the stage. A CBS News analysis found Thomas Matthew Crooks fired 8 bullets in less than 6 seconds before being shot and killed by a Secret Service sniper. Also today, the House voted to form a task force to investigate the security failures surrounding the assassination attempt. And there was another remarkable event today on Capitol Hill. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu took his case straight to Congress for continued U.S. support for Israel's war against Hamas. For the most part, he was warmly received. But as CBS's Scott McFarland reports, there were also intense protests against Netanyahu, both back in Israel and outside the Capitol.
Thousands of raucous protesters converged near the Capitol this afternoon, some burning an American flag and an effigy of Prime Minister Netanyahu. Inside the Capitol, the Israeli leader took them on.
Yet incredibly, many anti-Israel protesters, many choose to stand with evil. They stand with Hamas.
Netanyahu urged the joint meeting of Congress to continue backing the war and his country's efforts to free the hostages, though he's been unable to reach a ceasefire deal to bring them home.
We're not only protecting ourselves, we're protecting you.
Netanyahu compared the October 7th attack to Pearl Harbor and argued enemies of America, including Iran, have targeted Israel with sights set on the U.S.
Our fight is your fight, and our victory will be your victory.
He defended his nation's prosecution of the war as the death toll nears 40,000, many civilians, and Gaza faces extreme food shortages.
If there are Palestinians in Gaza who aren't getting enough food, it's not because Israel is blocking it, it's because Hamas is stealing it.
Political tensions pulsed through the audience. Michigan Democrat Rashida Tlaib held a sign which read, "War criminal."
I will not rest.
Dozens of congressional Democrats boycotted the address.
Well, I think it's important not to legitimize a leader who has attacked democracy.
As Netanyahu spoke, protesters in Tel Aviv booed his speech as it played live on television. Back at the Capitol, Maya Roman, whose relative is being held hostage, urged Netanyahu to return home and finalize a deal for the release.
We finally have them where we want them. You have terrible terrorists like Yahya Sinwar finally willing to bring our loved ones back to end this war.
Multiple reports say ceasefire negotiations are reaching their closing stages. And that'll be on the agenda tomorrow when Netanyahu meets with the president at the White House. Scott McFarland, CBS News, the Capitol.
All right, we are seeing some rain and thunderstorm activity push through eastern Kentucky at this hour. Here's the latest with live pinpoint Doppler radar, and you're noticing over towards Hazard, over towards portions of Leslie and Clay County, seeing a little bit of rain and thunderstorm activity at this time. As we go ahead and zoom in, we do have one flash flood warning in effect to talk about. This is for Buchanan County in Virginia. This goes into effect until 12:15 this evening. Again, flash flood warning in effect for Buchanan County until 12:15. According to the chart here, 989 people are currently impacted by this flash flood warning. Numbers for today made it into the 70s and 80s, mid-80s in Irvin, as well as Moorhead, 86 in Ashland, 84 Somerset. London made it to 83, made it to 81 in Hazard. And then over towards the Clintwood and Wise area, we had temperatures in the 70s. Right now, Wise is at 68, Clintwood is at 70. The majority of eastern Kentucky seeing temperatures in the 70s. So when you wake up in the morning, we'll see temperatures in the 60s and 70s, 69 in Hazard, 71 Jackson, 69 Manchester, 71 in London, 69 from Somerset down to Monticello. I'll have your complete first alert forecast coming up in a few minutes. Steve.
Eric, thank you. A golden alert was issued tonight for a missing Laurel County man. Deputies say 74-year-old Marvin Nance was reported missing yesterday. He was last seen off Desarn Road near London. Officials say he may be in Georgia and has possible dementia issues and requires medication. Anyone with information should call the Sheriff's Office at 606-864-6600. A legal organization called the Liberty Council is working with former Rowan County Clerk Kim Davis to overturn a grand jury's ruling. The jury ruled last year Davis would have to pay more than $300,000 to a gay couple after she refused to issue a marriage license to them in 2015. This new appeal aims to prevent her from paying that money and also aims to reach the Supreme Court in an attempt to overturn gay marriage. The Liberty Council says they believe the U.S. Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals could have a decision on their case at the beginning of 2025. Students across the country will be making their way back to the classroom soon. For Alice Lloyd College in Knott County, students will return to class August 20th. Right now, construction crews are finishing up projects on campus. 2 years ago, the college's one-way street was damaged by the historic flood. Now the mile-long road and parking lots have been paved.
The campus has been fully paved and striped. There's no more driving around trying to find a parking spot and hoping for the best. So we're really excited about that.
The road pavement and retaining rock walls along the creek are part of the campus flood repair and prevention project. To learn more about the renovations, find this story on WYMT.com. A mission trip brought a group of young people from Washington State all the way to Martin County, working with Appalachia Reach Out to reach into the area schools. Youth members are working at schools and other sites in the county, cleaning, organizing, and hoping to have a positive impact on the people of Inez and beyond. Volunteers say it's been a great time of learning about the area while contributing to something they are proud to leave behind.
But it's like a learning experience, and you get to have fun, and you kind of, you get to work with others, and you build relationships a lot.
The students also spent time at other schools in the area while other groups were working on home repairs and more. Administrators with Perry County Schools have bought driving simulators for students. Students can log their driving records to show progress. Work Transition Employment Specialist Samantha Turner says the simulator can be set up in multiple ways.
So this also has a lot of things on there for vision impaired. All the buttons are all the same. They're in a special area for vision impaired students, and students with significant disabilities. We're able to move around the gas pedals and things for those students.
The simulators were purchased through a grant approved by the Kentucky Department of Education. Coming up on Mountain News at 11, a bill requiring American flags be made in America heads to President Biden for his approval.
And we have rain and thunderstorms pushing through eastern Kentucky. We'll dissect that in a few minutes. Stay with us.